So I just got done watching The Watchers, which was written for the screen and directed by Ishana Night Shyamalan. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is the 24-year-old daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, one of the most ambitious directors out there right now, and one of the most famous directors out there right now. So now here you have a second-generation filmmaker coming in trying to follow up in her father's footsteps, and she is crafting a psychological thriller of her own. Also doesn't hurt that her father came in to produce the movie. Our hero is a 28-year-old artist played by Shyamalan frequent Dakota Fanning, and she ends up stranded in an expansive, untouched forest in Western Ireland. She unknowingly becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers who all find shelter in the forest, and this group of 4 ends up stalked by mysterious creatures every night known as the Watchers. And without giving too much away, the Watchers are basically like an amalgamation of the aliens from A Quiet Place with their sounds, with a little bit of a sprinkle of the doppelganger family from Us. Not to give away too much, of course, but that's kind of what I gathered of the Watchers as characters. And let's dig into this, guys, because honestly, I don't even know where to start. I really don't know where to start. I guess I'll just say this much for right now. This review is going to be as constructive as possible when it comes to me criticizing the movie, because I know Ishana Night Shyamalan is going into this project with a lot of pressure on her back. Like, look at who her father is. Those are some seriously big shoes to fill. And the movie was almost marketing this as another M. Night Shyamalan movie, but let me be perfectly clear. This is his daughter's movie. His daughter wrote the project, his daughter directed it, and I'll tell you this much as well. Ishana definitely takes after her father in a fair amount of good ways and in the bad ways. I will admit that the cinematography in this movie is drop-dead gorgeous. If there's one thing great that Ishana is doing right now, like her father, it's the shot composition and the direction. Granted, I don't think Ishana has mastered the art of doing scenes in one shot just yet, but I think there's a lot of brilliance seeping through when it actually comes to framing these shots and directing her actors. Who, speaking of, let's talk about Dakota Fanning, who's really grown up to have quite the career for herself. Like, I remember watching her when she was Fern in Charlotte's Web, when she was like 9-10 years old or something like that. I'm growing up with Dakota Fanning. She's around my age now and she's still doing acting, and you know what? Good for her, man. She's easily the bright spot in the acting department. Again, I'm gonna be incredibly vague when I say this, but her character has a lot of deep psychological trauma. Her background is just filled to the brim with devastation. And it's a very relatable message that the movie is trying to get across about not hating yourself too much and not being too anxious about the past. And I think the movie does relate that message very well by the ending. But let's get into the bread and butter of The Watchers and why a bunch of my colleagues have called this disappointing. And you know what? Part of me sees where a lot of my fellow YouTubers are looking at, and I see why they're disappointed by The Watchers. And I think part of that falls on the fault of the marketing team, because they were pushing this as like the must-see thriller event of the summer. Which is ironic because we get A Quiet Place Day 1 coming out in 3 weeks. That right there is the horror movie to see this summer. I'm so pumped for that. And funny enough, because the aliens in this movie feel to me exactly like A Quiet Place, except you can, talk around them. And I understand that this is a young filmmaker who is probably influenced by a lot of the great classic thrillers that we got, especially over the past decade. I'm specifically looking at A Quiet Place and Us, as I mentioned earlier. I'm not saying The Watchers is nearly on the level of either one of those 2 movies, but yeah, you can definitely sense the derivative nature of The Watchers. And I'm honestly glad that this movie is out. I'm glad that this movie is helping to propel Ishana Night Shyamalan's career as a director and a writer. I see what a lot of my fellow content creators are saying and calling this disappointing. I'm not going to say that because I don't think it's really fair to call this a disappointment. I think one of the big reasons why people consider The Watchers a huge disappointment is because Ishana Night Shyamalan is not her father. They're expecting a movie on the caliber of The Sixth Sense, or even Knock at the Cabin, which came out last year. And I really don't think that's fair. I think what we were able to get with an up-and-coming second-generation director, I think there's some glimmers of greatness still to come, and she is still a director that is developing. And she is clearly still a writer that is developing. Like, honestly, I'm trying to say this in the nicest way possible, but this script feels to me like a college kid wrote this. This feels to me like a script Ishana wrote while she was studying film in college. I'm assuming that's what her degree is in. And this feels to me like a script that got no constructive criticism from her professors. You can sense it especially in the dialogue in The Watchers, which honestly feels like there is way too much fluff. What I mean by that? The filler phrases, the filler lines, where the characters are kind of saying out loud what the audience might be thinking in that moment. You know, like how every 10 minutes it feels like Dakota Fanning is asking, "What happened? What's this? Oh wait, is that a door?" Why yes. That is a door in the floor. Not going to give too much away about what that is. But it just feels to me that the movie makes a little bit too many strange and off-the-wall choices for my liking. Not to say that strangeness is a bad thing, but looking at how the movie panned out as a whole over the hour 40 minutes, there's a few things that don't really make much sense. And I'm not talking about the big picture. I'm talking about some smaller things here and there. Like there's a scene. They're set in Ireland, right? Literally, there is a background character wearing a Seahawks hat. Now, don't get me wrong. I love me the Seahawks, but I almost guarantee you that the people overseas in Ireland are not into American football like I am. Which brings me to the million-dollar question that I'm sure a lot of you people are wondering going into The Watchers. Is there a Shyamalan twist? Well, Ishana Night Shyamalan is certainly her father's daughter, because the answer to that is a resounding yes. And much like other Shyamalan movies, the twist and how it's executed will make or break The Watchers for you. And when it comes to The Watchers twist, which obviously I won't give away, here's what it boils down to for me. Number one, I was able to guess the twist almost about 15 to 20 minutes deep into the movie. Predictability is a huge red flag when it comes to a plot twist. It therefore makes it not effective. At least for me. I mean, the high schoolers I was watching this movie with tonight were really into this movie. And you know what? Good for them. But I was able to read in between the lines almost instantly. And again, I'm not going to give away the twist just in case you haven't seen the movie yet. But I think if you've seen every M. Night Shyamalan movie and you kind of see the trajectory of where it's going, it's very easy to pin down what the twist is going to be. And yes, Ishana also has her father's tendency to over-explain the twist. That's honestly what made M. Night's more recent releases, not counting Knock at the Cabin, because I loved that movie. But I'm thinking of Glass, Old. He really has to make sure that he hammers the point home. Like, this is the twist. This is what it means, and this is what it means for the trajectory of these characters. And then once the high schoolers in my theater suddenly got it, they were like, oh, whoa, that was cool. Man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall when those kids watch The Sixth Sense for the first time. Because it doesn't really feel like the same magic is there with The Watchers. It's certainly not as scary as some of the instant classic thrillers that I'm used to. Because of, once again, the derivative nature. But like I said, I really don't think it's fair to call Ishana Night Shyamalan's first big feature film in the limelight under her father's credit. I really don't think it's fair to call this a disappointment, because there are certainly sparks of a good movie in here. Dakota Fanning's performance is excellent. The shot composition, I feel like, is very good. Ishana Night Shyamalan has a great handle on that. And I'm definitely rooting for her career to kind of skyrocket up to that next level. I just think there's a few other things, especially in terms of her writing, that she needs to develop before she even gets to that next level, like trim out the fluffy dialogue here and there. In short, I don't think The Watchers is one of the worst movies of the year. And I certainly don't think it's disappointing, because I didn't walk into this theater tonight with lofty expectations like a lot of my friends did. It pretty much gave me about what I expected. I'm going to give The Watchers a C-. Now, even though it was what I expected, certainly doesn't make it a good movie. The fluffy dialogue is just way too much. It's not as scary as some of M. Night's classics, especially from earlier on in his career. And that twist was way too damn predictable. But let me know what you guys thought of this movie down in the comments section below. I have reviewed every single M. Night Shyamalan movie from his career. There's a big playlist up on my channel if you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts on them. And let me know which M. Night Shyamalan movie is your favorite. I love discussing all new things in the cinematic world over here on The Regular. If you like discussing all topics related to the cinema, this is a great channel to become a part of. So do consider subscribing today. Tap on that thumbs up as well if you enjoyed what you saw. Summer season is really kicking into another gear in the month of June. I'm checking out Inside Out 2 next weekend. I can't freaking wait for that. And there's a bunch of other new releases coming out this weekend and from last weekend that I need to catch up on. It's gonna be a lot of fun over here, guys, and I can't wait to have you guys along for the ride. Y'all are the best. Thank you again so much for supporting this channel. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.